Hotshots, Jess with Emotional Fire Academy here today to ask the question, would you stop being a highly sensitive person if you could? We're going to dive deeper into that and answer it for ourselves. Welcome to Emotional Fire Academy. My name is Jess. I'm a master NLP practitioner and former firefighter. And subscribe to my channel if you are a highly sensitive person ready to up-level this year and maybe even leave your sensitivity behind. That's what I did. So welcome to my channel. This is what we do here. We help HSPs up-level their lives. I put out weekly videos that help do just that. So welcome to this space. So today is going to be a little bit more informal. I'm really going to share a lot of my story and what my answer to this is. And I frequent the HSP groups on Facebook. I interact with my clients, and I see so many stories coming from highly sensitive people that lack validation for themselves. Their HSPs are frequently looking for validation from others. They're saying, is this normal? They're saying, I feel so overwhelmed. I'm so trapped. How do I change this? I'm so desperate. I don't belong in the world. There's just a lot of negative stories in the highly sensitive person community, unfortunately. And that might be skewed because, in the Facebook groups, you're looking for support and validation. And the HSPs who don't need that and are a little more self-sufficient are out living life and not leaving comments in the groups. So that could be skewed. So this is just my perception. And so I wanted to address this because I have been in that space in my life of feeling a lot of the things, of expressing a lot of the things that I see expressed and felt in the groups by other HSPs. So I want you to know, and let's answer the question first. Would you stop being a highly sensitive person if you could? If you could change it today, would you do it? A lot of the people I ask who do identify as HSPs say yes immediately. Their answer is yes. My answer would have been yes most of my life. My answer is different now because I have stopped. I've stopped being a highly sensitive person in a certain sense. So let's kind of go deeper into this. So a couple years ago, and I had the classic HSP story, right? We notice things as we're a child. We're very emotional as a child. We're given messaging that that's not okay or that we need to stop by someone around us or multiple someones. And then because of that, we develop this hypervigilance socially to make sure that I'm doing the right thing because I feel unsafe because I haven't been doing the right thing, and oh my gosh, and this makes us very introspective and analytical about other people and how they're reacting to us because essentially we got the messaging that, we weren't acting the right way. We weren't behaving normally. We weren't. And so this kind of has created feedback loops. So my story is not much different than many others in the highly sensitive community. And my emotionality as I went into my 20s and 30s really became worse and worse. I became more and more triggered by things. And at the point about 2 years ago where I really hit my lowest point, I had essentially isolated myself from all of my friendships. They had all collapsed because I was so emotional and so triggered and just wanted to be by myself. I wasn't holding a job. I was so burned out. I didn't know what to do. I was very lost. I had to move back in with my parents, and unfortunately it was kind of the culmination of having to do that many times over my life. It had been a recurring pattern of going through these kind of burnout cycles or cycles of losing myself to being a highly sensitive person and feeling too sensitive for the world. And when I got to this point 2 years ago, I was done. Like, I really was finished. I was finished with this. I had accumulated enough stories behind being highly sensitive that I had determined I just didn't belong in the world. You know, that my life was a waste, kind of the lowest point you can get. And I'm not going to elaborate on, the depth of those feelings, but I'm sure you can insinuate them on your own. And so what happened when I reached this point? I think when you reach that point, that lowest depths of being mired in your own dysfunction, being mired in your own story, being mired in something that just isn't sustainable. These stories, these narratives, the way that we're living, the behaviors, they become unsustainable. And that is where I had reached this point of really being like, I have to do something different. I have to change. If I'm going to survive from here, I must change. Change was inevitable. And so this quest that I began to try different things, to learn how to think differently, to learn how to behave differently, to learn how to feel differently, I really dug into it and I really committed to it, because what was the alternative? I couldn't go back. I couldn't go back to believing, that I was going to be constantly overwhelmed in my life and that I was going to be constantly emotional. I really dug in and went on a quest to try different things. The first thing that I tried was neurofeedback. And within 12 days of doing dynamic neurofeedback, my symptoms, I woke up one day and I can only describe it as my symptoms had popped like a bubble. Like literally, I woke up in a different consciousness. It was incredible. It was incredible in 12 days. Years and years of living in this highly sensitive, fragile state, to suddenly have it pop. That's what it felt like. It just felt like a popped, like something just gave inside of me. It was the closest feeling to enlightenment I think I've ever had. Everything made sense. I suddenly just had this sense of nirvana. I don't know how else to describe it, where I understood my own existence. I understood my relationship to others. The emotionality melted away. Everything literally disintegrated overnight. I went to bed a highly sensitive person and I woke up enlightened the next day. I got really excited about this and I went into the Facebook groups and I shared with people what I was feeling, and I immediately was attacked. I was attacked, and people just really were like, that's not HSP then, you don't know what you're talking about, and they completely invalidated my experience. And that really hurt me. I kind of withdrew from that and I continued doing the neurofeedback, and the sense of nirvana kind of waned, and I leveled out into a place that was kind of a medium between where I had been and then the sense of enlightenment. And so when I returned to the unit, I thought that I had been miraculously changed. And then I went back into all the things that I had been doing. I actually left my parents' house, went back to the life I'd been living previous to coming to their house, and suddenly everything came rushing back in. All of the things that I had been doing, the behaviors that had made me fragile, returned. They returned in full force, and I was even more unhappy because I had tasted the sweetness of not having this HSP thing hanging over me. So I continued my quest. I realized, I was like, okay, I've done it once. How do I do this again? How do I get back to that place and sustain it? And so I continued on this list of modalities, and I started learning and researching, and I found NLP. And NLP was kind of one of the massive things that changed my life, because it taught me how to think differently. And from there, I only continued to, not only, I had gone back to these old habits and patterns and ways of feeling overwhelmed and emotionally fragile, and I climbed out of that kind of exponentially. And where I am now is nowhere near who I was a few years ago. Nowhere near. No, I don't even, I don't even identify as HSP anymore because it is a sad story. So I want you to know, I want to give you hope. If you are someone who feels near this burnout, or if you are someone who is so sick of being HSP, if you are someone who just doesn't feel like you belong in the world, I get you. I get you, and I want you to know that being a highly sensitive person is a collection of habits. Please hear me. It's a collection of habits. It's a conditioning. And anything that we can condition ourselves to do, we can also uncondition. We can uncondition, and we can do it very incrementally, or we can do it, in this really huge way where we wake up a different person the next day, kind of like I did with that popping bubble sensation. I've done it both ways, and I just want you to know that you can do this. If you're sick of the old story, you can do this. You can do this. This is what my channel is about. And if you do the things, if you actually do the things I teach NLP. These are the things that helped me. These are the things that woke me up out of this illusion of being trapped as a highly sensitive person. Because let's be honest. The traditional description of being a highly sensitive person, the DOES acronym, the depth of processing, overstimulation, emotionality, and sensitivity to subtleties, two of those characteristics put you in victimhood. The overwhelm and the over emotionality. Those two are so disempowering. That shouldn't be part of the description, I think. It's just it's a toxic acronym. I really believe this. And I want you to know that you don't have to subscribe to that. You don't have to believe the experts about being a highly sensitive person. Because, there's no experts, because it's a personality trait, right? Being a highly sensitive person is a personality trait. I don't hear many experts out there talking about extroverts, an expert on being an extrovert and saying, these are the qualities of an extrovert. And, these are the classic signs. And who cares? Who cares? Your experience is your own. Your experience is your own. It doesn't matter. Experts aren't right a lot of the time. They're not right a lot of the time. They're pitching in their opinion. Just like I am. You don't even have to listen to me. If this is rubbing you the wrong way, it's okay. You don't have to listen. Go find something that resonates with you and live it. But I want you to know that I believed too. I believed I was trapped in being a highly sensitive person. I believed that I was always going to be like that. I believed, and that is not true. It's not true. You are constantly, every moment is fresh and new. We forget our own power. We have so much power in our lives that we forget it, And when we tap back into that, when we tap back in and we make ourselves the expert on us, and because the negative emotion that we feel as highly sensitive people, the disempowerment, is believing things that aren't true. That's what's actually happening. It's having to accept a reality that we just really don't like. And we don't have to accept it. Right? Our focus and our attention is how we give power to things. When we kind of ignore it and we're like, no, this is my reality. This is my reality. This is what I choose to experience. This is how I choose to be as a person, as a conscious being. This is our choice. It has always been your choice. It always will be your choice. And that is the beauty of it. When we awaken to that power, we can decide to become whoever we damn well please. And that's true. That is totally true. I'd stopped being an empath. I was like, this isn't serving me, feeling other people's emotions. So I dropped that. I stopped, all of the negative stuff about being a highly sensitive person. I dropped. I left it behind. I walked away from it and was like, this isn't how I want to be. How do you want to be? How do you want to exist? Think about that and then embody it. Move towards that reality. Let go of all the old stuff. Let go of the DOES acronym. Let go of become a super sensor. Become anything you want to become. Leave behind the parts of being a highly sensitive person that don't serve you, that don't make you happy, that aren't life-giving and fulfilling. Leave them behind. It doesn't matter what anyone else says. You are the one in charge of your own experience. So, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about this. Leave a comment below. And if you are a highly sensitive person who is ready for one-on-one guidance, who needs additional support in getting to that place that you choose, that you define, that you want to be as a human being. If you want to leave that HSP label behind, I can help you get there. You can do anything you want. You can become anyone you want. You can embody any personality that you want. You can be an extrovert today and an introvert tomorrow. And you can stop being highly sensitive in a way that you're leaving behind the old narrative, the old label, the old story, and craft your own story and do it in the way that you want it on your terms. So yeah, look me up at emotionalfireacademy.com if that sounds good to you and you would like guided support in doing so. I offer a 3-month Flammable to Fireproof program where we do just that. So thanks for watching. Hope this was helpful. Have a great day.